Hey, welcome back to A Faster Me. This video is brought to you by Sophisticated and Swanky. For 25% off, please use discount code AFM2024. Now let's get to some racing.
This is the major motion king and queen of crits at Hughes Parkway. And we'll be switching back and forth between my video and Marlena's video. This is the 3-4-5 race, and this is, my video to start. So the plan was to try to get a good start and hopefully have a good, fun, fast race.
Yeah, I think Marlena got a good start too there, jumping out to the first couple positions. Right now you're behind Summer. It's good to see Summer back out there. I don't know if this is her first race of the season or not. But yeah, it's good to see her back out there.
And it was good to see Cassidy as well. She's in the orange helmet to the left. Kind of came around the outside.
Yeah, this is a pretty fast and flowing crit. It's pretty, I don't know the right word, but it's kind of like a vanilla crit. It's nothing like so special. The layout's good. It's nice and fast, but it's flat, like pan flat. There's like no incline whatsoever, I don't think. So there's really nothing to tax your legs as far as the terrain, but there is a little bit of a crosswind out of the section that they just finished right there in between turns 2 and 3. A little bit of a crosswind there, kind of coming off the freeway or near the freeway there. And then it's pretty much wide open. There's no sharp turns or anything. Turn 2 is kind of the sharpest turn, and it's not even your typical 90-degree turn. So just a very smooth, fast-flowing course. Yeah.
I will say that the kind of the easiness of the course lent me to practice some bad habits, because you could really take the corner at about any angle you wanted to. It wasn't too tight, but I found myself being able, going to the inside, and because I could take it at whatever angle, it just kind of creates those bad habits of going inside.
Yeah, and just to clarify, it's not a bad habit to go inside. It's a bad habit to separate from the peloton and start turning towards the apex of the turn early. Just going inside is never a bad issue. This is Marlena's video here, or Marlena's camera angle. So yeah, Marlena did a great job of making the race really hard. Probably did a little bit too much work, or at least more work than I'd like her to do, but she did a good job of just keeping the pace hard. And something I say all the time, and I hate to say it because people just take things the wrong way, but a lot of the line choices are not like good race lines. Even these corners here and the lines that they're on, they just don't have any purpose, and they're not the most efficient or fast lines. So of course no one has to listen to me or anything, but I think in the long run you have to at least know why you're taking the lines that you're taking. If you don't, and you're just kind of randomly out there turning your bike anywhere you want to, it's just not good for safety. It's not good for your growth, and it's not good to be efficient. So please don't take it the wrong way. I wasn't talking about anyone in particular. It happens often through a lot of these races. Same with Marlena here. She's kind of turning this corner, but there's really no purpose to her turn there. She really could have been more efficient, having a better apex, having a better line, turn in and exit from that turn. I understand it's not the biggest deal because no one's near her and all that kind of stuff, but it's just not a good habit. And again, it's not really efficient to kind of neglect your efficiency, because it all adds up in the long run.
That's India out in front. Great to see her back racing this season. There was a wide variety of, we had a pretty good field, a wide variety of racers. So some, more experienced racers, as well as some people who this was their first race.
Yeah, and this is, I don't know if we said it at the beginning, but this is the 3-4-5 race. And yeah, that's the nature of these races. Like, you'll have some Cat 3s that are very strong, very experienced, have a lot of races under their belt. And you'll also have some Cat 4s that are still fairly new, kind of in the middle range there. And then obviously people in their first race, like Ellen just said. That's a much better turn from Marlena there, much better line that she took. And again, like she's on the front here, kind of doing more work than I'd like her to do. But at the same time, she is kind of keeping it fairly fast and, just making it hard on people. And it's funny because this is not a course where it's easy to make it hard. And Maria Benson is out front, and Marlena's actually just taking it upon herself to run her down. And this is also a preem lap on top of that, which, they had a lot of good preems for the women. I think $50, $75, and $100 preems. So that's really good to see. It's a lot of money in this kind of race. So yeah, Marlena's doing a great job putting in a lot of power here. Again, I wish she would have solicited some help to bring Maria back, but she decided to just put the effort in, and she's, roughly around 275 to 300 watts the entire way and just kind of runs it down.
This is only my maybe second or third race that I can remember having this many cash preems. So a lot of times you see the cash in some of the higher category races. So it was nice to have, some options out here, which kept the race, pretty fast, just with people going for preems consistently.
Yeah, and you'll see in a second, that's Naomi there. Naomi was able to ride Marlena's wheel like all the way up to Maria, and then she just comes across, dances on the pedals, and takes the preem there. So great job, Naomi. We'll see it again from like Ellen's angle here. And you'll see from how far back she came, just to get to the front and take that preem.
I'm eagerly awaiting to see it. This is my first time kind of watching the cut up video, as Anthony does all the work for all the videos. So we appreciate him.
Yeah, well, hopefully I show it because
Yeah, maybe that's a different time.
Yeah, I don't remember it going this long, but it is what it is. If I didn't, I didn't. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I show it here. I think I just show Marlena still put in an effort getting back to Naomi's wheel as well, which, I'm sure Naomi was kind of gassed a little bit too and just shut it down. But if she would have continued on with an attack, that would have been pretty brutal because, Marlena was on the front end. It looked like she was the only one willing to put the effort in to run it back down.
I know many of you have seen the video from Anthony's race and crash because we got that out right away, but that was something that was definitely on my mind starting the race, and here is the angle.
Yeah, so this is the going just one lap back, and you see Naomi's there on the left side, and this is how far back she was. She was pretty far back, and that's where Marlena's on the front trying to run down Maria. And Naomi puts in a great dig up the left side here. She makes it all the way up to Marlena's wheel, and then of course across to get the preem. Ellen's gonna have to, because Ellen was on the back here and has to put in a lot of work to just kind of get back up to the front of the peloton here.
And I was definitely not feeling my best coming into this race, kind of coming off of Valley of the Sun. I was a little bit just tired, but it's only 30 minutes, so I said I can focus and just work hard for 30 minutes. It's not that long. And I think, your legs perform. My fitness is pretty good, just still have a pretty good base from the off season, but hearing right before the race started, kind of back to hearing that there was a crash and medical was needed in corner 3, and Anthony had not come around, so I knew he'd gone down. So I was thinking, okay, if real medical attention is needed, then I might be going to the hospital instead. But a few people went over. Aaron from LABA and Billy and Brian came out to support at the race, and so they went to go check on Anthony, so he was at least up and not going to the hospital. So kind of just refocused and raced.
Yeah, when Billy told me that, we told Ellen that you crashed, I was like, run back over to the start line and tell her I'm fine. She can just go ahead and race, doesn't have to come out of the race. So yeah, it's just, honestly, sometimes it can be stressful. Obviously, you care about someone that's in the race, but at the same time, it's just kind of part of the deal too. We understand that at any time, any of us can be hurt, and sometimes you can be hurt seriously. So, For the most part, Ellen and I, we kind of just take it in stride with all of the things we do. When we used to ride motorcycles, all of it's the same. Like, we know before we ever get involved in the sport that you can definitely get hurt.
There was one race, I think it was at Willow Springs, was it?
Yes.
And I saw Anthony go over the front of his bike and get knocked out at, I don't know, 100 plus miles per hour, and he laid there still for quite some time, and I think he was finally moving by the time the paramedics came to him. So I was telling the people, well, at least he's probably not paralyzed. I saw him move his legs, and people couldn't believe that was my husband out there with how calm I was, but just really understanding the risks and, hoping for the best. But I think that was collarbone separation and all kinds of injuries that time.
I was just taking a nap. It gets hot out there in Willow Springs, so I was just taking a little nap. But yeah, so anyway, back to some racing. Yeah, so everything's kind of bunched back up again, and Ellen's sitting in here behind Naomi and Emmy, and yeah, I think Ellen did a good job of racing this weekend. The only thing is she kind of went back to some bad habits of just not being as efficient in the draft, and there's times where she just rode off to the side of the peloton, and again, using all that energy early just adds up in the end. And people think it's no big deal, but it is a big deal. And when you need that extra little punch, sometimes it's not going to be there if you're burning energy kind of like unnecessarily.
Another thing that I think I really struggle with is when I'm coming up, right in someone's draft, I don't want to use my brakes, and so I'll just veer off to the side. But those are really bad habits because you need to stay efficient, use your brakes a little bit if you have to and stay in that draft. I believe Emmy was also spouting out some sealant. So I was like, how much do I want to be behind her versus someone else? But I know Emmy is a very smart rider, and she's, kind of always there at the end. So I knew it was a good place to be. But then the sealant situation wasn't too wild about. And here you see me kind of veering off to the right, and it's really just a really bad habit.
Yeah, and there's also two other things I'd like to say, and not geared to any one person or anything. It's just at the stages of this type of racing, at the lower categories. But I think two things people really need to practice and concentrate on is one, riding your bike straight. And what I mean is a lot of people in these races, they weave when they ride, and you're able to get away with it just because the groups aren't as big, because you only have 20 and 15 riders, stuff like that in the race. But once you get to higher categories or a race that has a higher turnout and you got 30, 40, 50 people in it, you won't be able to weave back and forth while you're trying to ride in a straight line. So that's one thing I would say, is concentrate on riding on a straight line. And another thing is, I don't know, I think people mislead new riders a lot, and they tell them that they need to be right on somebody's wheel, 6 inches off the wheel, and that's 100% not true. You should not be 6 inches off the wheel in front of you. You should be more like 18 inches off the wheel in front of you, which is roughly one full bike wheel. You don't need to be any closer than that to get a draft. And if you are closer, it's not necessarily a better draft, but it does increase the chances of overlapping wheels and having a crash. So it's really not worth it. If you're within one wheel length, you're going to get plenty of draft.
And I believe that was another preem lap. You saw a lot of effort there. It stretched out.
Yeah, and if you see the ladies after the preem wanted to slow down, and Marlena did a good job of just counterattacking right there. The only thing I would say about her counterattack is the speed was a little too high. So it's hard to counter if the group's already doing 28, 29 miles per hour, just because you really can't go much faster than that. So in essence, your counterattack becomes kind of voided because the speed was too high to begin with. And unless you're going to do a full-on sprint for an extended period of time, you really can't go much faster than 29 miles per hour to start off. So, but yeah, it's a good job of not letting people rest, not letting people slow down. Unfortunately, it comes at the expense of some energy. But yeah, if people want to go for preems and stuff like that, it's a good idea to make them pay for it.
I think that's something that I for sure can grow in, is the in-race IQ. of kind of adjusting to circumstances as they present themselves, like the speed not slowing down significantly, so then it's not a good idea to execute some tactics. Um, maybe if you're not able to execute game plan A, kind of readjusting and not trying to force something and make it happen. So it's just definitely in race tactics is an area that I for sure need to or would like to grow in. Watching it, I can see all of it and, think about those things after the fact or even before the fact. But when your, heart is elevated and things happen and change, sometimes those decisions are not the greatest. And then you see some riders that I think just have a really high in-race IQ, and you see them making kind of adjustments and doing things,
Yeah.
maybe more efficiently.
Yeah, but one thing I'll say about that is, you said you see some riders that have like a higher race IQ. Well, it doesn't just come naturally. You have to put time in. You have to learn those things. You don't just develop them from racing either. I know people think you do, but it's not true. There's a lot of people that have been in racing for 30 years and they race the same way that they have from the beginning. So it's not just that something that you automatically learn just because you're on your bike. It's something that you have to consciously make a decision to learn to become a more tactical racer, to become smarter and be able to identify circumstances. It's the same with the race lines. If you just go out there and race, your race lines aren't going to improve. You're just doing the same old thing over and over. So you have to be intentional on the things that you want to improve on.
And that comes from practicing in your training ride. So even when you're by yourself, maybe it's a zone 1-2 ride, practicing corners. It's something that I've been doing more recently is practicing, later apexes, just riding around the neighborhood or on some of the boring-ish training rides.
Yeah, and see, there's an example of what I'm talking about. If you look at Cassidy here, the wheel she's following, she's making a bunch of minor adjustments, but they're unnecessary. The reason why she's making those minor adjustments is she's trying to follow that wheel too closely. If you just back off a little bit, it doesn't matter where the person's at. You don't have to make all of those little minor adjustments. Typically, everything should be really smooth. If you look at Maria here, look how smooth Maria is. She rides her bike in a straight line. She's not weaving back and forth. Her pedals are just like, her legs are like pistons. They're just going up and down. And those little adjustments she's making, if you see she's riding kind of off set from Cassidy, that just comes with like her comfort level, her experience, her knowledge of I don't have to be 100% directly behind the wheel, and I don't have to be 6 inches off the wheel. You have to give yourself some room for error. So Marlena and Maria kind of go for this preem here, and Maria just kind of gets on top of that gear really early and just accelerates really well. I think Marlena was under geared there as well, because if you see when she accelerated pretty quick, but she was already at about 112 RPM. And if you're going to be that light of a gear, you're going to have to accelerate to about 130 RPM or so in order to keep speed. So yeah, definitely if you're going for a preem, you got to make sure you're going to be in the right, any type of sprint, you got to be in the right gear. And yeah, you got to be able to get on top of it like Maria did and just keep the power down.
From the back, I was watching and I saw Marlena. I could see that she was starting to sprint and go for that preem, and I couldn't tell. I thought she may have got it because I was back a little bit further in the race, but it's very evident, yeah, that Maria had that pretty easily.
Yeah, I think Maria was just raking in the dough on this last Sunday, because I know at one point, and I don't know this for sure, I just know what the announcer said, so I don't know how true it is, but I know at one point he said if she got the next preem, that would be $200. So I think she had already had about $150 in preems.
Covers the race cost, the gas to the race, and some extra.
Exactly. So here's Marlena again on the front. Like I said, she was determined to kind of make the ride hard, and it was. And, this is a race that we kind of use. I don't mean to take it lightly or anything like that. Everybody's trying hard and trying to, compete and win races. But it's also a race that we kind of use as a like a practice race, because it's, they're Cat 3 now and they can race the P123 race later, which obviously a lot of times that one's just holding on or finishing wherever you can. So sometimes we'll use the 3, 4, 5 race just to try different things and warm the legs up, kind of stuff like that, and just get some race practice in.
I gotta say, I was happy to just be doing one race. It is challenging to do a race early in the morning and then kind of sit around and do a race later in the afternoon, get your nutrition right. Here's Lisa, you see off the front, putting in a hard effort there.
Yeah, so we went back. I think I went back to Ellen's video here. Yeah, you saw Lisa go off the front, but I just kind of wanted to show here. Ooh, I can't even forget. I mean, I forgot my point of why I edited it this way. But anyway, I did want to see Ellen's point of view here from when, I think was from when Marlena counterattacked earlier. And I could be wrong, but obviously you guys can tell this is not scripted. It's our first time watching the edited clips and, commenting on them.
I know, it's so surprising to go back and forth between the videos because you just get used to watching it a certain way and then all of a sudden it's different. So there's Jules taking a puff of her inhaler. It's great to see her back out here. But yeah, it's a struggle trying to get your fitness back and recovering. So great to see her out here.
Well, and just helping organize the race, all those kind of things. So, when you add something to racing, it doesn't get easier. I mean, I've done it a couple times now. When I first started, running a team with PAA, like, it completely takes your focus off of your own racing and something suffers. And my first year doing that, I didn't have the greatest year. So yeah, once you run a team, again, it takes it off of you and kind of puts it on just everyone else. You're just concerned about everyone else. So something I want to point out there is Ellen was riding off to the side, not in line with the rider she was following, and that kind of opened a gap to where Naomi can kind of shoot through there. And that's really a bad habit to have, because when you ride either off to the side too far or too far back from a wheel, it makes people think, hey, I can fit my bike through there, and eventually someone ends up chopping your wheel. And it's not their fault, it's your fault for leaving that door open and making them think, hey, I can fit through there. Really, you have to tighten up those gaps and just it'll make everyone a little safer, because now you're making a decision for them, and that decision is your bike can't fit in here because I'm going to keep that gap closed. When you open that gap a little bit, then people start thinking, hey, I can move over, I can move up, I can move through there, and sometimes they're going to be wrong, obviously.
And there I see I did a pretty hard effort to close that little gap. So you see it stretched out single file. We're moving along pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we're going to be down to about 5 laps to go now or so. Maybe even less. Yeah, and the gap's not closed completely because, like I said, Marlena's on the front putting the hammer down right now, and you can see it stretching out even more. And shout out to Kat right there with the Ironfly kit. I talked to Kat and possibly her father after the race. I'm not sure who it was, but I talked to her and a gentleman. It was just nice talking to her, and she did a great job this race. I won't give out the results yet because you'll see them in a little bit. But yeah, just shout out to her and great job. It's always good to meet new people.
And here I'm going to finally get back over on, I think that's Naomi's wheel. But man, it's so frustrating to watch sometimes where it's like, just scoot over, just get out of the wind and scoot over behind somebody.
So here, this is where you attack. It's 2 laps to go. Ellen launches an attack up the inside here. And it's a great job attacking here. Unfortunately, her teammate didn't know it was her and called her out. So, Marlena yelled right side as Ellen went by her. So, but great job attacking. I would just say here, with only 2 laps to go, it's all or nothing at this point. If you're going to put this effort in, you got to keep going until you just cannot pedal your bike anymore. It doesn't matter if people are passing you or not. You're willing here to come in last place. It's just, yeah, it doesn't make sense to attack and try to keep some in reserve. It's 2 laps to go and you just burnt a big match. So really, you just keep the hammer down here. Don't let up. If they catch you, they catch you. And that's just really it. If not, don't use this effort with 2 laps to go. Just go ahead and sit in and wait for a bunch sprint at that point. Or lead out your teammate, one of the two.
And here you see we're going to come up on some lapped riders. And unfortunately, in my mind, I was not as decisive as exactly what I was doing. You know, I think there was some plan to do that sooner. But then when it was kind of 2 to go, I was going back and forth in my mind of just sitting in, because I unfortunately made that mistake at Valley of the Sun of going early. And then, you know, when they caught me, Marlena does a counterattack, which...
This is Marlena's point of view here from 1 lap back. And so these are the girls going for a preem here. And this is why it was stretched out so far when we were watching Ellen's point of view. So the girls go for a preem there, and you can see they all sit up as soon as they pass the finish line. So they sit up and they kind of want to rest here. And Marlena says, nope, don't think so. We're gonna keep it hard. No one gets a chance to rest. And she launches a counterattack here, and which is a good job. The only thing is, once you're this late in the race, if you're gonna be putting in these type of efforts, you can't let it come down to a bunch sprint, because you're gonna be the one without the energy, and everyone else has been sitting in, drafting wheels, stuff like that. So if you're gonna counterattack this late in the race, just like I told Ellen, you gotta go. You gotta make it stick at this point. It's really late in the race. So I think this is with 3 laps to go. So technically Marlena has a chance to sit in and recover after this. As you can see, the 4 girls here are too strong for that type of effort. They're not gonna let her get away at that point. So, you know, you got India, you got Maria, and you got Emmy here. They're all really strong, smart riders. So they're definitely not gonna let her get away with this few laps left in the race.
And the field was really kind of broken apart. So the front group only had about maybe 8 to 10 riders. So Marlena doesn't know that, though. She's kind of operating here at the very front of the race, which is great, but sometimes you don't know if it's a whole big group behind you or just a handful of riders. So I think, you know, can definitely grow in, you know, team communication as well, of maybe what to do in certain circumstances and what's going to better suit the team, because there's really no way that we should have finished where we did.
Yeah, so here, I don't know if this is the front straight, but this is where Ellen attacks. If you see, Ellen does a great job attacking right there. Again, unfortunately, Marlena called her out, but still, Ellen stretches it out pretty good. And I think here, Marlena's best bet would just be to sit in and draft, wait for the bunch sprint, because there's only 2 laps to go at this point. And if Ellen stretches it out, that's fine. That does it great. That keeps everybody safe. That keeps the pace fast. You don't allow people to bunch up. But with 2 laps to go, you already know it's a bunch sprint now. Like, no one's really going to completely get off the front for a clean breakaway. So I think Marlena should just sit in here and recover as much as possible.
Yeah, I know Marlena and I both have problems wanting to, you know, execute some team tactics, but it really needs to be what suits the team best, not just executing
For the sake of executing.
Yes. So I think, you know, we both made some poor decisions in this race, but it is, you know, practice and growing, and
Yeah,
and it is making moves to improve.
Yeah, and as long as you are teachable, there's no bad students, just bad coaches. So that falls on me, you know. As long as you guys are following what you're supposed to be doing. And there goes Marlena's counterattack right here once the group caught Ellen. And like I said, it's a good thing. It's something that is an option. The only thing is, I think she has to average probably 275 to 300 watts here for about 4 minutes in order for this to have a chance at working. So she comes down, as you can see here, to the lower 200s, and that's not going to work. The girls are too strong that are behind her. But if she would have kept it around 330 or so right now, and then try to settle in after about 30 seconds to a minute, she'd have to settle in to about 250-ish. That might have a chance to work. But yeah, you can't coast at all right here. You can't be in the 200s, can't be in the 180s. all of the girls, the top 4 girls behind her, can all do these numbers as well. So yeah, and some even more. So yeah, you got to sell out kind of at that point with 1 lap to go.
And some of the lapped riders then were kind of getting back into the group as well. And I realized, like, man, the group is really stretched out. I can still maybe try to hang on to the last little bit of the group.
Yeah, so the thing is, Marlena tried that, counterattack, kind of didn't work, of course. Just like I said, it's really late, so no one's going to let someone get off the front. And then Kat here launches her own attack. And it's a really strong attack. Obviously, Kat's really strong. Even though she might be a little bit newer racer, she's super strong. The only thing is, she attacked from the front. And everyone can see you when you attack from the front. It would have served her a little better to attack from like 5th wheel, 6th wheel, something like that, get a little bit of momentum and sneak attack the stronger riders who are on the front. But if you just ride straight off the front, everyone can see you and they're going to go with you. If you get a head start from about 6th wheel or so, get your momentum up, pass them with a lot of speed, it just has a little bit more of a better effect, and you get a little bit of a better gap that they have to close here. So because of that, though, Marlena did that attack a second ago. Now Kat puts in her attack. This is the last lap, and you can see Marlena just doesn't have the fire in her legs to keep pace with the group anymore.
It was pretty amazing to see how much power she was still doing with that attack. So she's done, a tremendous amount of work in this race.
Yeah. Her fitness is not a question, not at all. Like, she's super strong, super fit, recovers fast. But again, as you move up and you have stronger girls in the race, like 400 watts is no longer good enough, So you can see now she's at mid 300s, but not for a sprint. This is nothing for a sprint. So just a little bit of, it just didn't work out today. Great racing, great aggression, way to keep the race fast. It just kind of didn't work out. And this is the last lap here. Marlena crosses the line in 8th place. And then we're going to roll it back 1 lap to see how Ellen finished. So there goes Marlena on the counterattack there after Ellen just finished the attack. And then we'll see how Ellen kind of finished out the race here.
And I was really thinking I was done, but then I see that, man, there's a big gap. So I'm going to do little something trying to kind of get back to that front group. And I am able to kind of close that gap, as we'll see shortly.
Yeah, and this is 100% proof of what I was saying, a couple minutes ago. If Ellen was on an attack and she was giving it her all, there'd be no way that she would be able to put in 400-watt efforts to get back up to the top here, get back up to the front group, So she's doing 350 right here. She shouldn't be able to do 350 if she would have given her all on the breakaway attempt. Even at that point, if you get caught in the breakaway, your breakaway should have just turned into a lead out for your team and just keep the field as stretched out as possible until you can't pedal anymore.
And unfortunately, that's what happens when you're indecisive in your mind of what you're doing and exactly what the purpose is. So it needs to be whatever you're doing, 100% committed to that and give it your all.
Yeah, and you can see here, everybody knows it's a sprint. Anyone that can sprint, they want it to slow down. And this is, of course, where Kat, or I forgot her name, Lily or Kat, but Kat makes her attack here. And, of course, it just stretches everything out again while it's been hot for the last, lap and a half, but Ellen and Marlena attacking. So everybody's kind of dead-legged, and, you can just see how it busts up or stretches out the peloton, like, really fast. But again, if you see Ellen's watts here, she shouldn't be able to do this. You got to leave it all on the floor when you go on your breakaway with 2 laps to go. You got to leave it all. You got to empty the tank. But again, it's a good job that you are fit. You did recover fairly well, and you're still putting in a hard effort to kind of struggle to get back to the front.
Yeah, and you're going to see I finished 10th, but really with teammates, and someone finishes 8th and someone finishes 10th, it means there were some mistakes made because someone should finish much, a higher. You want to get somebody the highest position possible, and then, maybe the other person finishes 20th or 25th or something.
Or
So
doesn't even finish. Like, yeah, that's what it's about. If you're about team, it's about getting one of you guys the highest finish possible. And that helps the team, that helps everybody, and you contributed, you did your part. You should feel good about that. If you're about yourself, then yeah, both of you guys come in 8th or 10th, 11th, 12th. But yeah, so for us, we like the team accomplishments, and we'll do it better in the future.
thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.